This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. Learn more online or subscribe at beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew. We're in the Czech Republic for this week's episode, and we're at actually one of Joe's favorite breweries here in Prague. Joining me is Aleš Potěšil at Břevnov. Did I say it correctly?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I'm working on my Czech pronunciation on this entire trip. We're going to talk about, this was actually one of Joe's top 10 beers in his personal critics list last year, and led him to make sure that we got this podcast into our Czech trip here. We're going to talk about how you brew that beer, and then also how you take from that lager brewing base and even brew creative iterations of that, including even a imperial coffee lager, which sounds interesting to me. That even here in Prague, you all are playing out in the creative space as well as in the very, very traditional space. We're going to talk about all of those things, but first, G&D Chillers, the brewing industry's premier choice for glycol chilling, are proud of the cool partnerships they've built over the past 30 years. G&D Chillers has set the standard on quality, service, and reliability with 24/7 service and support. Want to maximize efficiency in your chiller? G&D's micro-channel condensers are designed for less power draw. Their lighter weight and more compact design uses up to 70% less refrigerant, which means a lower GWP and lower operating costs. Reach out for a quote today at gdchillers.com or call to discuss your next project. Also, today's podcast is sponsored by BSG. When planning your next brewing journey, consider traveling domestically with your malt choice. As distributors of quality domestic malts like Rar and Gambrinus, BSG gives you the freedom to explore a world of flavors, but at local prices, so you can cut costs but not quality. Start exploring at bsgcraftbrewing.com. And is your brewery making its own ciders, seltzers, and other beverages beyond beer? If you need a central source for fruit flavor, Old Orchard has you covered. Old Orchard supplies flavored craft juice concentrate blends to beverage brands for the production of beer, cider, seltzer, wine, spirits, kombucha, and more. Flavor your lineup and streamline your sourcing by heading to oldorchard.com/brewer. Well, Aleš, let's talk a little bit about the brewery here.
Mm-hmm.
We gave us a little tour before we started this podcast. There's quite a bit of history just on this very location that we're in, where this brewery is located on the Monastery grounds, going back 1,000 years, maybe a little bit more. This is the third iteration of a brewery right here on this very location. But give us some of that background here on the brewery itself.
Yes, we are really proud of the big history in the Břevnov Monastery, because Břevnov Monastery in Prague is the second oldest monastery in the Czech Republic and oldest man monastery. And we know that this monastery was established in 993. And from the same year, we have got oldest written mention about brewing process in the Czech Republic. And this mention told us that Bishop Adalbert banned brewing beer in the monastery area. So this is the oldest mention about brewing or beer in the Czech Republic. And now, in 2023, we are in the Břevnov Monastery and we are still brewing. So that's perfect for us. But it's important to say that a lot of years brewery wasn't in the Břevnov Monastery. So in the middle of 12th century, the monks started brew beer again, but on the start of 15th century, in the Czech Republic, were big religion war, so the whole monastery was destroyed, probably with brewery as well. And today's monastery was built in the middle of 18th century, and we know that it was built with brewery as well. We know the location of this second brewery. We know much information about capacity and about brewmasters, but we don't have any recipes from this second brewery. But we know as well that this brewery was closed in 1889, and the building of the brewery was destroyed in 1950s. So we can say that we are the third brewery in the Břevnov Monastery area. But now we aren't monks, or monks don't brewing a beer. We are a private brewery. We pay a rent for a building, but we cooperated with the monks because monks or Benedictines, they are owners of restaurant and tap room in the monastery area. So we sell our beer to the monastery pubs in the monastery.
So you have a tight relationship here with the other businesses that the monks do own, like you said, the tap room and the restaurant. And you said almost a quarter of the beer that you make is sold right here or around these monastery grounds.
Yes, because our owners are brewmasters, and we are happy that we can brewing, and that's all. We don't like have restaurants and any problems with restaurants. So now we have got just brewery. We are brewing a beer. We try to have the best beer, best quality. And here in the monastery, the restaurant is about 50 meters from the brewery. So we can guarantee the quality there because we know what's batch of brew are, how long they storage the beer, and so on. So for us, it's the best situation.
And then you have a direct relationship with the Benedict restaurant group that also sells your beer and works with that Benedict brand. Then you're a part owner of that group also that's in between, and they sell another 25% of your beer?
Yes, 2 years ago was established Benedict Group company. This company now has 2 restaurants in Prague. One is in the Karlín, and the second one is in the city center called Pivovarský dům. It was one of the oldest micro or pub brewery, originally established in 1988. And this Benedict Group buy beers from the Břevnov Brewery or Břevnov Monastic Brewery. And so this is the relationship between us.
And between all of that, it's 50%, of the beer that made here at the brewery goes out through those channels, and then the rest of it is there, which is a significant amount of beer. You're brewing about 5,000 hectoliters a year. Is that what you mentioned?
Yes. Nowadays we have got 2 breweries. The bigger is in the Břevnov. In the Břevnov we are brewing about 4,000 hectoliters of beer. And last year, in 2022, we started brewing beer in the Pivovarský dům in the brewery, and there we can brew some seasonal beer or some beer experiment and so on. So there, the capacity of the brew house in the Pivovarský dům is about 1,000 hectoliters beer of per year.
So still small and still operating
Yes.
much at a craft level.
Yes,
here.
we are proud that our beer could be served just in Prague. We have got about 10 up to 15 pubs or restaurants in Prague where they have our beers. After that, we have got some in Hradec Králové and Brno. It's smaller cities in the Czech Republic, but about 95% of our production is sold in the Prague.
Mm-hmm. Interesting too that you all do package some beer, but only about 20% of the beer that you make. As we were touring the brewery earlier today, they were bottling some of that beer in plastic bottles, which as an American, it seems like a strange thing for me to watch that. But you were mentioning too that because most of that packaged beer, the way that consumers buy and drink packaged beer in plastic bottles is it gets consumed usually within 1 to 3 days of being purchased. That's an interesting mode of beer delivery.
Everyone who comes to the brewery and see our plastic bottles he can say, "Wow, why do you have?" I can answer because Czech people prefer these bottles. They are not so strong, and they know that about 3 days they can drink the beer and it's okay. So this is the reason why we have the plastic bottles. But we are happy or satisfied that about 80% of our production are filling to the barrels, because maybe that the Czech peoples are the biggest drinkers beer in the world.
Yeah.
Our consumption is about 130 liters of beer per year per person, per everyone who lives in the Czech Republic, women, babies, and so on.
Yes, the per capita consumption.
Yes.
It's not just, it's been number one in the world since since anyone started tracking this. And it's not like it is almost double the number 2 in terms of per capita consumption of beer. because beer consumption here is a very social,
Yes.
process. There are places, there are pubs to drink beer together everywhere. Every neighborhood has many, and it becomes this kind of standing social occasion to go grab a beer together.
Yeah, in past, every city or every village has so many pubs or restaurants, and after work, people going to the pubs and they are talking all night, and they can drink about 10, 12 beers. It was enormous number. It was in the past. Last year, the situation a little bit changed. If the Czech people go to the pub, we aren't drinking 10 beers. It's and most of the people buys cheaper beer and they are drinking it at home. But in the Prague, people are happy that can go to the restaurant or drink some local beers or some craft beers. So this is the reason why our consumption is so high.
It's also why beers that in that 10 degree, 11 degree, that 3 to 4% range are so popular, because they need to be in order to.
I say that it's for all day drinking.
Sure.
And in the past, about 40 years ago, in the big factories in the Czech Republic, for glass, for example, the local breweries, they are brewing the lager with 3% of alcohol. So it's really less numbers of alcohol, and the employees in these factories, they can drink this beer in the work. So it was interesting that it's in our culture, we can say that we can drink all day of this weak beer.
Yeah. Despite the low ABV, Czech brewers in general, broadly speaking, also focus on building very flavorful and characterful beer. And we can talk about some of those processes, whether it's the usage of hops, whether it's decoction, building body, and building kind of flavor and character in these small beers. You all in the Czech Republic have found many ways to do this despite the small scale of the beers. And we're going to tap into your knowledge on how you do that. Before we do that, take your brewing to the next level with AccuBrew's revolutionary fermentation monitoring system, now predicting specific gravity. With predicted SG, you'll have precise control over the fermentation process to ensure consistent, high-quality results. AccuBrew's mobile app and stainless steel sensor work together to send you live data from inside your tanks, including predicted SG, fermentation activity, clarity, and temperature. Join the AccuBrew community and experience 24/7 peace of mind with our set it and forget it solution. Come see them at CBC Brew Expo in Nashville to meet the engineers at booth 2935. Also, ProBrew has always been a dedicated and trusted partner to breweries, especially when they make the leap to canning their product. That's why they only sell rotary can fillers, which significantly reduce product waste and produce higher quality product than an inline can filler. Need proof? Visit ProBrew at booth 433, as well as at their party at Yazoo Brewing at this year's Craft Brewers Conference in Nashville. To RSVP to their event or schedule time with them at the show, visit them at probrew.com/CBC or email contact us at probrew.com. ProBrew, brew your beer. Also, Indie Hops breeds new hop varieties to help brewers captivate beer lovers. Indie's unique varieties like Strata, Lorien, Luminosa, and Meridian are trusted by brewers worldwide to modernize, brighten, and diversify their beer lineup. Indie also offers classics that thrive in Oregon terroir, such as Chinook, Crystal, and Sterling, thoughtfully crafted and selected hops to meet your brewing needs. Visit indiehops.com/podcast and stop by their booth number 2131 at CBC to discover what's new in hop flavors. Indie Hops, life is short. Let's make it flavorful. All right, Aleš, let's talk about the way that you all approach pale lager. Maybe we walk through the brewing process, and we can start with some, talking about ingredients. One of the key focus, and this one I normally don't talk about hops first, but you all have a very interesting, approach to hops. You tend to, have sourced a lot of your, Saaz hops from, a field or a grower using very old vines, and now the Benedictine monks have started growing their own hops. And you even source some from them. One of the characteristics of some of these is incredibly low alpha, and the under 2% alpha, like very, very low alpha. But let's talk about talk to me about hops and using Saaz hops in your pale lager.
Yes, our pale lager, we use two Saaz hops. One of them is Benedictine hops.
Am I pronouncing that right? How would you pronounce Saaz hops?
Žatecký pluraný červeňák. It's really difficult for pronunciation. So žatecký pluraný červeňák means Saaz hops in Czech language.
Evan, we went out with Evan Rail for some drinks last night, and he described it as župače.
Yeah, župače.
Župače, yeah.
So we use two Saaz hops. One of them is from Benedictine hops fields. These hop fields are young. They were built in 2017, so the hops is really in good quality and good condition. And
why did the Benedictines decide to start growing hops?
During restitution, our government they received the old hop fields in the Saaz area. And they started growing about 30 hectares of this area, their own hops. So it's traditionally processed for Benedictine.
So restitution, this is a process of returning government
Yes.
property in the post.
Yes, because in the past, in 1948, communisms, they won an election. And it was a big process when the government have everything, factories and some hops and breweries
Right.
everywhere. Everything was owned by communism.
Sure.
And after revolution was big privatization, and it's go to today, so we can say. So this is the first hop from Benedictine hops, and second one it's a really specific Saaz hop variety. This variety has really a low percentage of alpha acids. It's 1.9 exactly, and we can combine these two Saaz hop varieties during a process on the brew house. Our first hop edition. Or adding is during a loitering. It's like first mash hopping, I think it's English. And the last adding of hop is go to the whirlpool. It's for these both of them. We can say it's for aroma. And after that we are hopping usually during a hop boiling.
What is the ultimate IBU goal for your pale lager?
33, 34 IBU.
Talk to me about that. Now, you getting that kind of, that's a significant amount of IBU, especially with such a low alpha hop. That has to pose some interesting challenges for you.
Yes, because if we know that beer has to be 33, 34 IBU, it's necessary to add a lot of hops with less percentage of alpha acid. So there are a lot of hop oils, and we believe that this is the reason creates the specific hops aroma of or Saaz aroma of our beers. A lot of Czech breweries, they combine Saaz hop with Sládek or Agnus or other Czech hop varieties, but we believe that just Saaz hops is best possibility for our lager or Pilsner style lager.
And even just calling it Saaz is a very broad term. You know, there's a lot of breadth within the expression of Saaz itself. How do you describe the way that the Saaz that you use reflects itself in the beer?
In the aroma, I think that it's a little bit like grassy aroma, or a little bit hoppy and a little bit like lemon, but grassy is his first noticeable aroma for me.
Yeah, and how would you say some of these older hop fields that you source from compare to the younger ones? How does that affect the aroma and flavor of the hops themselves?
It's we know at first we know where was the hop grown, so it's perfect for us because every year we can go to the hops field and see how looks like a cones and how will be the alpha acid, for example. So at first it's good for us, and after that we have got fresh hops after hop harvest about 2 months after that. So we know that it's fresh and it's really good for hops oil. We know that if we have got old hops, it isn't good for the aroma. So this is the reason why we are happy and proud that we have got cooperation with the monks, because we know their hops fields.
Yeah. And so you try to use those hops as close to harvest as you can, always using, basically the current crop year as quickly as you can get into that. You're not storing them back there for years and years.
We will see.
Sure. Now, talk to me about why you spread that hops everywhere from, while you're lautering through the whirlpool, rather than just doing a set number of boil additions on the hops. What do you find, comes from that, and how do you then, how much do you then spread on the front and back end versus that middle boil process?
Mm-hmm. At first, before boiling, we add about 25% of bitterness of beer, and we know that the pH level is different before boil and during a boil. Mm-hmm. So we believe that it's specific effects for hops oil and for the aroma at the final result. And the last adding of hop during a whirlpool, yes, the temperature there is about 95 degrees Celsius, so not boiling, and lot of hops oil can be still be in the wort. So these two reasons are for us the most important if we are brewing or talking about the aroma of our lager.
How strong, or how much of that hops bill goes into the whirlpool versus earlier on?
We add
how aromatic are you trying to make this?
We add 1 kilograms and 1,500 grams to one batch, and our batch is 2,000 liters.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Obviously, within other modern beer styles, whirlpooling has become much, much more popular, and it's interesting to watch how that same kind of component is just as powerful here within the world of pale lager.
It could be like modern view for old recipes for pale lagers, yes.
Yeah.
But we love that beer has character, we can say. So if you are drinking lager, and this lager is well balanced and drinkable and has nice hoppy aroma, for us is perfect.
Nice, happier. Now there's a Czech term for this kind of approach to drinkability. Talk to me about that.
We talked about this topic on the start when I say that Czech people has the biggest consumption of beer in the world. So this is the reason that Czech beer is drinkable. Drinkability means that our beers are well balanced. It's for all day drinking, how I said. And it's necessary, the beer has to be malt body from the Czech malts on the degree of attenuation. And this malt body could be well balanced or be equal with the hops and bitterness. And that means that if we drink pale lager, we need more than more. So this drinkability for us, for Czech people, that if we are going to the pub, we don't drinking one beer. It's about 3-4 because we love it and beer is drinkable.
And so it at the same time has to carry this drinkability and this ease of consumption, but it also Czechs drink a lot of this beer, and they have the ability. They also want something there, and so there's some character to it, and so it has to both be something that you enjoy drinking and also be something that you can continue to drink, frequently. Let's talk about that. And I think in such a pale beer, you all do a phenomenal job of building this feel of body. Talk to me about how you do that, both through the malt, through the decoction and this kind of mashing process. Starting with how you select malt for the beers.
At first, it's malt. Malt is important for us. We use malt from Czech maltery. They use the Moravia barley. And this is the first step. This malt has about 12% of proteins. In proteins, we know that proteins create the malt body. And this is the third reason. And for our pale lager, we use just Pilsner malt. Any caramel, any minic, just Pilsner malt, and that's all. So this is the reason why we can see the color of the beer. It's a little bit yellow. We can say not gold like Pilsner, other Pilsner style beers. So it's a little bit yellow. But this is the reason by
And
using.
in the picture that we have here, it's
Yes.
it almost looks amber, in that kind of context. For something with all Pilsner malt, it definitely has some significant color to it.
Yes, but I know that most of Czech breweries they can use Pilsner malt, Munich malt, caramel malt.
Really?
I don't know a lot of Czech breweries who brew just from Pilsner malt. I think that it's specific for us. So this is the malt. After that is brewing techniques or brewing recipe. For our pale lager, we use double decoction process. It's long and it's expensive. We know it. We know it. But we know that the final product, the beer, it's really good by using the double decoction.
Let's talk about that. So, this brewery was founded in 2011. You've been brewing for about 12 years now. It wasn't as if it was a historical, you didn't inherit this process of decoction. You all have made a conscious choice to brew beer in this way using this double decoction process in pale lager. Why do that, and what does that decoction then look like for you all?
That's interesting that we found all this beer recipe from 1585 from Czech Republic, and in this recipe is triple decoction. It's from us the oldest recipe which we found, and we were really surprised that in the 16th century the brewmaster used likes today triple decoction process. So we can say it's traditionally, but nowadays we know that the decoction process is good for drinkability, for malt body, and for specific contribution of sugars or some dextrins and sugars, and it's good for fermentation and for bodies. We try to beer our...
And I should say this, you also make single infusion beers here. You do make single infusion IPA and stout in smaller amounts. And so you are definitely, you are very specifically choosing this mash process for this kind of beer.
The decoction for lager?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's for sugars in the wort, and it's for fermentation, because our attenuation of pale lager is about 75%, and this is the maximum what can yeast eat. We can say, if we used other process, for example infusion, maybe the attenuation will be higher. But for lager, for drinkability, for body, is single double decoction is best possibility for it.
So what does your double decoction look like?
I can start talking from the start. So at first the mashing in temperature is 37 degrees of Celsius. We mix water with the malt. After that we heat to the temperature of 53 degrees, and during this temperature we separate 2/3 of the volume to other vessel, and after that we are working with 1/3, and we are working, that means that we are heating to 73 or 72 degrees of Celsius. There are rest of 15 minutes. After we are heating to boil and boiling about 20 minutes. After the boiling we put together the whole volume. We stir it, and after that we separate 1/3 again. The temperature after mixing is about 63-65 degrees of Celsius. So after that we separate the 1/3, and after that we are heating again to 73, 15 minutes rest, and after heating to the boil, and after it's 15 minutes boiling. After a second boiling, we put together all temperature of all volume is about 73-74 degrees, and that's all. And after we can start with the process slaughtering.
Obviously, this has some sort of color contribution to the beer, and how do you? Or I should also ask: is this brew house a direct fire brew house? Is this a steam brew house? What does that process then look like?
Steam brew house.
Steam brew house. And so you're not necessarily getting that kind of high heat caramelization, process, but you're still trying to, achieve this kind of color and body through that, with that steam brew house.
Our brew house is made from stainless, and steam heating it's good for it. So we don't have any problem with more coloring of our words.
Yeah. Where do you go then through after this mash process? Are there any other details there that you find add character to the beer, or do you then, how do you then go through the rest of the hot side process?
It depends of every year's crop of barley. Yes, we know how many proteins are there, how many amino acids or nitrogen or extractivity of the malt, and every year these numbers are different. So after when we saw the analytics of the malt, we changed the temperatures and the volumes.
Really?
Yeah.
What would be some of the things that would cause you to change some of the parameters then of this mash?
At first, for example, we can talk about proteins. If it's a higher number of proteins and not so much amino acids or nitrogens, it could be a good potential for a lot of diacetyl in the beer. So we know that it's necessary to have the bigger or longer rest in the temperature of 53, 55 degrees of Celsius. Yeah, this is the first step, and yes, this and is for the acetyl, for example. And after that, second one is for attenuation. If we have got a lot of proteins and not amino acid, it's necessary it's not so good for process fermentation.
So that mash will change every year then based on what the barley looks like.
The differences aren't big. Yes, but every year we are checked with the analysis of malt.
What does the boil process then look like on the pale lager?
Do you mean hop boiling process?
Yes.
After mashing, it's process slaughtering. Here it's about 2 hours. At the end of the lautering, we add the first hop, and after when we have got wort in the vessel, start with the process hop boiling. It's long about 90 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour and a half, 90 minutes. And we add the second hop to the start of boiling, and third hop at the end of the boiling, and last hop we are at to the whirlpool. And during this boiling, I think that about 7% are evaporated. And at the start of boiling, our plateau is 12, and at the end of boiling, we have got 12.4. I don't know if you know the plateaus in the US.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about this, but first, are you ready to start canning your craft beverages? Twin Monkeys Beverage System is here to help. The troop of engineers, service techs, and microbrew fanatics offer customizable packaging solutions for every craft. Their canning lines are affordable, made in the USA, and engineered to grow alongside the needs of your business. Visit twinmonkeys.net today and learn just how easy it is to get your craft into cans. Also, do you know Brettanomyces yeast? Brett is wild. It's unpredictable, gives funky notes to beer, evolves in time. Historically, it was used without control, but Fermentis has harnessed it. Discover Soft Brew BR8, the first dry Brett by Fermentis, now available in 100 grams and 5 grams. Want to know more? Don't miss the Fermentis Academy 2023 program in Minneapolis, April 11th, or in Portland, April 13th, or meet Fermentis experts, CBC, in the BSG Village to answer all of your questions. They'll also hold a Soft Brew BR8 Barnyard Bash on Monday, May 8th from 2 to 4:30. You are cordially invited. Don't miss it. And ABS Commercial has been a full-service brewery outfitter for over 10 years. They're proud to offer brew houses, tanks, keg washers, and small parts to brewers across the country, as well as equipment for distilling, cider making, wine making, and more. Contact them today at sales@abs-commercial.com to discuss your customized brewery needs. Going to the Craft Brewers Conference in Nashville? Stop by their booth to connect with their brewery consultants and enter for a chance to win a keg Viking keg washer. ABS commercial. We are brewers. Let's talk about fermentation. What does fermentation look like on this pale lager?
We use specific yeast strain for lagers. Maybe you know W34. It's originally from German, but we use like more Pilsner. It's called H yeast strain. We've got our own lab, so we can produce our own yeast. So it's really, really good for us. And after that, the starting temperature of fermentation is 80 degrees of Celsius. After that, we aerate the wort and add the yeast. And time of fermentation is about 10, 11, 12 days. And during this time, yeast, they eat about 75% of sugars.
And this is in cylindrical fermenters.
Yes, for pale lager, we use cylindrical vessels for fermentation.
You have open fermenters, but you can only put dark lager in those due to space concerns.
We are in the monastery. We can see the history there, and open fermentation vessels are good for historical or more traditional recipes. So we use it just for dark lager.
So with this, then lager fermentation, you say 10 days or so, and then how does that move from there?
At the end of fermentation, we can close the fermentation vessel. That means that the pressure are going up. We got it's for carbonation and
spunding the tanks.
I don't know what does it mean.
It's what you're talking about.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And after that, we cooled the young beer to temperature about 2 degrees of Celsius. After that, the yeast, they are sitting down to the conical bottom. We separate the yeast and pump the young beer to other vessels and start the last process of production of beer. This process is called lagering or maturation. This is the longest step for our Benedict lager. It's necessary to have 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month in the maturation vessels. And during this time, beer is more carbonated, more clarified, and tastes better than to the start. The bottom fermented yeast, they are good because the temperature of maturation is about 3-4 degrees of Celsius. These yeasts are still alive and they are still fermenting. So the change of the beer it's a little bit different than the start of this process.
What as you taste this, because you all, I'm sure, sample and understand, like what over that maturation process, how would you describe what happens to the beer as that yeast is still doing a little bit of stuff, but working very slowly in that very cold temperature?
On the start of the process, the beer is really like glassy or grassy, or we can feel the green apple, for example. A lot by using Czech yeast diacetyl, and at the end of the process, the beer is more clarified with no off flavors and more carbonated, and bitterness is better for drinking.
Talk to me a little bit about diacetyl. Now, obviously, it's a well-known thing amongst brewers that the Czech public has a much higher tolerance threshold for diacetyl than consumers, or that some brewers in other countries might accept or enjoy in their beer. Controlling that becomes a balance because it can provide extra feeling of body in these very light beers. But of course, too much can be make it a more negative drinking experience.
Yes, I agree. If you are traveling in the Czech Republic and you are drinking lagers from the small or craft breweries, maybe you notice that diacetyl is in a higher level than in the other breweries in the world. We know it, and in my opinion, I think that the lower percentage of diacetyl isn't big problem, because diacetyl could well balance the beer. The bitterness with little bit percent of diacetyl, it's nice and good for drinking. But it's important to say that if you are drinking the lager or in the aroma, the first notes isn't to feel diacetyl. Yes, I think that diacetyl could be in the background of the beer. After that, I think it isn't a problem with it. But in the first touch, if we can feel diacetyl, it isn't good for it.
I think Americans in particular get trained on the idea of diacetyl as purely an off flavor, but describing it that way, it's an attribute of the beer. And as we were having a conversation with Evan Rail about that last night, I think he mentioned that like threshold perception is somewhere around 50 or 60 parts per million, and that generally the upper threshold in Czech beer is around 200 parts per million, but above 200, that's about the ceiling. And if it's higher than that, then that can be a negative. It is a higher threshold, but it's not an infinitely high threshold. It has to hit a window there where it accomplishes. From a textural component, how do you think that benefits some Czech lager?
Texture, you means the
body?
Yeah. It's important for it, and this is the reason why we use the decoction process or double decoction process, because in Czech language it's called chlebnatost. It's like bready flavor or bready taste in English maybe, and it's good for drinking, to make nice noticeable body and with balance with the bitterness. So we don't like beer without body. It's like, I don't know, Heineken, for example. This is lager. This beer is clarified with no flavors, but it's good for thirsty, and that's enough. If you are drinking other beer like Pilsner Urquell, Gambrinus, or other beers, it's from breweries. They are good because they have got body, they have got a texture, and it's good for drinking.
Are there any other special secrets to your brewing of pale lager that you'll share with us that we may not have talked about yet?
It's necessary to brew with love and with happiness, and it's difficult because we spend a lot of time in the brewery. The process of brewing of lager is about 9 hours, excuse me, and it's a long time process. We have to go to the brewery during the weekends because it's necessary to measure the process attenuation. So I think that every workers or brewmasters who works in the brewery has to love the beer and to have all brewery process or brewing process to have under the control of him.
Well, let's talk about some other beers that you brew. You mentioned that you brew a range of lagers up to an imperial lager, which happens to be one of the favorites of the monks here. And you even brew an imperial coffee lager where you're infusing coffee in lager itself. Let's talk a little bit about your approach to that. Maybe we should pour some before we talk about it.
Yes. Every year we are brewing about 30 beer styles or further kinds of beers. At first, for example, Imperial Lager, I think that we have got in the bottles there. We can taste it.
Sure.
Imperial Lager is really interesting because a lot of Czech breweries or world breweries, if you are brewing strong beer, it's mostly they are top fermented. Mainly in German we can find some box and these beer styles with higher percentage of alcohol but bottom fermented. So we would like to create the beer which is well balanced and drinkable but with high percentage of alcohol. So our Imperial Lager has 9% of alcohol. It's really enormous numbers for bottom fermented beer, but for us it's a little bit dangerous because this beer is really good. It's really drinkable. Yeah, so we use double decoction as well. At the start of or at the end of boiling, we add sugar because there are a lot of. It's necessary to have good start of fermentation, and sugar. It's good food for yeast at the start of this process.
When you say sugar, you mean dextrose?
Yes,
or,
yes.
Yeah.
And we use just Saaz hops like for pale lager. Other yeast strain like W34 yeast for this beer, and
because it can attenuate more alcohol.
Yes, absolutely. And the process maturation is long about 2 months or 3 months, so it's a really long time process for it. And we believe that this beer is really originally and it's we really like this beer because we are proud that we have got well-balanced lager with a high percentage of alcohol.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of, as you go through that production, what are some of the kind of key points where you pay extra attention to it because of the high alcohol? Are there any points, whether it's fermentation or even on the mash side of that, where you have to give it extra care and make sure that things operate in a very specific way in order to be successful?
Yes, during the mashing, the time of rest are longer. It's about 40 minutes during 63 and 72 degrees of Celsius. Fermentation is longer as well, and on the brew house we measure sugar. This is really important. If we have about 19 or 18 plateaus, it's necessary to boiling more time to have 20 degrees of plateaus. And to fermentation, we add 2 times more yeast than for lager. So there are a lot of yeast going inside the wort, a lot of aerated wort, and long time process maturation.
What other beers do you make here that you are especially proud of?
We are brewing, for example, our monastic IPA. And I think that our IPA is so specific because it's not US or West Coast IPA, it isn't New England IPA, it isn't British IPA, it's something between both of these styles.
You have to brew West Coast style IPA here. It has to be West Coast style. Can't be West Coast. We were having this, we love parsing this language out because, of course, American brewers are brewing Czech-style lagers and not Czech lagers. And then the opposite is also true then if you're brewing American beer styles here. Anyway, I digress. Talk to me about brewing a monastic IPA.
It's like Czech power of view for IPA. We would like to have IPA which is well balanced and drinkable. It sounds strange, we can say, but if we are going to the pub or restaurant and we offer IPA, a lot of people can drink IPA all night. We can drink 4 or 5 IPAs, and for this reason, it's necessary to have well balanced beer. So we would like to have in our IPA malt body. With well balanced with the higher bitterness, it's about 70 IBU. But by using US hops like Citra, Mosaic, and Chinook, we use to our IPA to create this specific hop flavor. So it's like combination of these.
How does how do you make it your beer? Is this using the same kind of Pilsner malt base, or are you using 2-row malt for that?
We use,
and then how about fermentation?
We use pale malt from the UK and just about 8% of wheat malt and about 10% of Munich malt. And we use American dry yeast. I think that's it's from Fermentis US 05.
Yeah. Cool. And so it's more of a straight ale fermentation then. And in terms of is there anything else that you do to put a Czech spin on it?
We don't use dry hop for IPA. It's I think interesting because a lot of breweries in the Czech Republic we are brewing IPA. Dry hop is, for example, most important, we can say, to create nice hoppy aroma and specific hoppy character of beer. But we add the final hops at the end of whirlpool, and that's all. Not so. Our IPA isn't so hoppy like other IPAs. So I think that this is other specific points of our IPA.
What is the alcohol ABV on the IPA?
6.5.
Okay, so it's in a pretty normal place for IPA. That's interesting. And then how do those American hops, like Mosaic and Citra and whatnot, play in this environment with Czech beer drinkers?
These hops are so popular because the big explosion of craft breweries was in 2010 to 2011 in the Czech Republic, and I think that every new brewery brew IPA. The IPA is the second most popular beer in the Czech Republic after lager. We have got IPA because Czech people like bitter and hoppy beers. So the US aromatic hops are a good possibility for us, and it doesn't problem to get every hops from the US. So we are happy that we have got these opportunities for use it. So Citra and Mosaic are the most popular. Yes, I think that it's the same situation in the US, and after that we can combine with other hop varieties.
It's fun and it's interesting to see that there is at the same time this embrace of more historical Czech pale lager, but also the same breweries who are embracing, these contemporary, newer hops and these, American beer styles that are now filtering back out to the rest of the world. At the same time now where American brewers are embracing brewing more Czech pale lagers, and so the world gets more diverse and more interconnected, as we continue through this. Are there any other, beers that you all are particularly proud of?
2 years ago, we started brew India Pale Lager. It's really popular new beer styles in the Czech Republic.
India Pale Lager?
Yes.
Okay. You should just call it cold IPA from now on.
Yes. But nowadays, cold IPA, it's in the Czech Republic, are beers with a higher percentage of IBV. India Pale Lager, it's like desítka, 11, 12 in cold Czech language. It's like, it's for lagers with 4 up to 5% of alcohol. So this is our differences between IPL and cold IPA. And our it's called Hoppy Benedict. We use single decoction lager, and for this beer we use processed dry hop. We use Citra and Mosaic for dry hop, and it's really good. And I think that a lot of people love this beer because we can feel the hoppy notes in the aroma, but it's still drinkable. So it's a really nice combination of lager and IPAs.
Are you then on the, so obviously dry hop would be Citra and Mosaic. Is there any kind of Saaz base in this anywhere else in order to also add some familiarity to it?
We tried to use Saaz for dry hops, but it wasn't so good. It wasn't drinkable.
Yeah.
Because the Saaz hops, they don't have a lot of hops oil, so the aroma was a lot just grainy and like green fruits, and it isn't so good.
Sure. Well, let's take a big picture look. What does the future look like here for Břevnov and the Benedict brand? Where do you hope to go over the next few years? Obviously, we've gone through the pandemic, had a lot of challenges for Czech drinking culture because Czech drinking culture is so much based on in-person drinking together. Knowing what the future is going to look like now it may still seem a little bit blurry. But what do you think? How do you see things going over the next 5 years, and what do you all hope to ultimately become with the brewery?
For me, the most important thing to has a higher percentage of our output to fill to the barrels, because in my opinion, I think that the best beer which we have is fresh and tapped in the restaurant or in the pub. So we are proud that 80% of our capacity is filled to the barrels and sell them to the restaurants or pub. So to the future, I think that it's really important to have this percentage of volume to the barrels, because beer has big culture in the Czech Republic, and going to the pubs and drinking good beers are important for me. So this is the first step. But on the other side, we would like to buy a better filling machine for filling bottles. And in my dreams, I would like to cooperate with other breweries from Benedictine monasteries. I know that 2 of them are in Austria, about 10 of them are in Germany. One is in France and one in Italy. and 2 are in the US. So we would like to build some cooperation with these Benedictine breweries, and this is my dream. We will see if is it possible or not in the future.
Well, I think that's a good place to bring this to a close. G&D Chillers has set the standard on quality, service, and reliability with 24/7 service and support. Consider traveling domestically with quality domestic malts like Rar and Gambrinus from BSG. Try Old Orchard's flavored craft juice concentrate blends in your next craft beverage. Join the AccuBrew community and experience 24/7 peace of mind. ProBrew's rotary can fillers reduce waste and produce higher quality packaged beer. Indie Hops has the hops you need. Twin Monkeys offers customizable packaging solutions for every craft. Discover Soft Brew BR8, the first dry Brett by Fermentus. ABS Commercial is your full service brewery outfitter. Of course, if you enjoyed this podcast and any others, go to beerandbrewing.com, click on that subscribe button, and show us that this content matters to you. Aleš, if people learn more about Břevnov, where do they find out more about this brewery and the Benedict brand of beers?
We have got some Facebook page or Instagram or our web page, Brevnovský pivovar. There are information about our brewery and about our beers, for example. There are some contacts for me, for example, if you have got or your friends have any question about Czech beers or some recipes, you can find my email address and write me. It's no problem to answer there about some Czech beers and our Benedict. And so I think that the best thing is go to the Břevnov and see our brewery, taste our beer in Prague.
I would concur with that. It's a beautiful monastery here, and what better place to drink the beer than right here on the grounds where the brewery is located too. And of course, if you are a subscriber to Beer and Brewing, go to beerandbrewing.com, read Evan's story that he wrote for us on your approach to building drinkability in lager. And there's also a homebrew scaled recipe for brewing your own pale. It's a pale lager recipe, I believe, on the website there. And so all of those things, all of those resources are available for you. Aleš, thank you so much for talking with us on this podcast. It's been a pleasure seeing the brewery, tasting your beer, and talking to you about the way you brew.
Thank you very much. It was the first time when I was talking to the podcast, so I hope it wasn't so bad because my English isn't so good, so I hope it was clear for me.
Your English was fantastic, and I really appreciate you sharing your point of view on brewing. Cheers.
Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. Learn more online or subscribe at beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew.